I landed my first job, so I thought I would do that for a year, gain some experience, and then venture off. That 1 year turns into 2. Then I knew it was time to go.
This business that you took over, that you bought, everybody agreed, let's take it over. What happened to that?
Well, we're visionaries. We've
Yeah.
got lots of ideas, and that's why it's frustrating for your management teams to keep up, because you're always moving, you're always bringing new ideas to the table.
Yeah, that's challenging.
It is far easier to start a business today.
Is it? Why?
As we were sharing earlier too, it's about desire, right? Being 50 now, do I have the hunger to really continue to grow with that kind of intensity and risk? Or is there smarter ways to scale? What about you? What was yours?
Oh, you got me there.
I could have given up years ago, multiple times.
Yeah.
All right, some of these big challenges. But why do you continue to push forward? You don't do it for yourself. You're doing it for your... I'm tired. I don't know what to do anymore. My staff keep leaving. We can't pay the bills. Okay, so which part of it is the greatest challenge?
At 50, how would you say your ambition is compared to 25 years ago? I just finished having a conversation with Dan Remon, and he is the founder and CEO of a company called FitCorp, which manages multiple brands here in Thailand. He's been in the health and fitness industry for well over 20 years and has been very successful. And if you enjoy that kind of story, please like and subscribe. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start from the beginning, actually a little bit before the beginning, and go back to where did you grow up?
Right. Well, that's an easy one. So I grew up in Sydney, Australia, on the northern beaches. So Avalon Beach, had a very outdoors, active, sporty lifestyle growing up as well. So I think that was definitely the starting point of exploring the world.
Okay, so born and raised in Sydney.
Yeah.
And you're playing sports, physical activity, a lot of that early on?
Yeah, I think the whole outdoor nature of Australia is very active.
Yeah.
So whether it's structured sport or surfing, skateboarding, it's an active lifestyle. So don't forget, there were no mobile phones. So you're out there just playing, getting lost in the bush, going to the beach.
Yeah.
And so it's just a natural progression.
And did you have siblings growing up?
Yeah, I have an older sister.
Okay.
So she's 6 years older than me. So it was always that gap, just as I was moving into primary school, she's moving into high school.
Okay.
So, yeah, quite different and independent lives.
And your parents, what were they doing for a living? Were they entrepreneurs or were they doing something else?
My dad was, absolutely. So mum and dad are English, and they immigrated to Australia back in 1969.
Okay.
So it was starting from scratch.
Okay, it was starting from scratch.
Building a whole new life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And so then your dad, he had a business or had multiple businesses as well?
He was corporate initially.
Okay.
And then he ventured out on his own and started his own firm and worked fairly independently.
Okay. Was that something that was like perhaps inspirational to you as a young person, young child?
I think back then when you're so young, I'm not sure if it was inspiration, but it certainly had its influence.
Influence, yeah. And you started working at a very early age, I think. I've read that. Was it
right?
How old were you when you were first job?
I think my first job, I was 8.
8 years old. Okay. What was this first job?
Delivering newspapers.
Okay.
It was a paper round.
Okay.
Right? So that was the first kind of step into the service industry, I guess.
Okay.
And learning independence, right? To be proactive, to use your initiative, to, start to make your own choices in life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did you imagine, or did you have like a passion or dream at least that you saw yourself what you wanted to be when you grow up later on in life? Was there something that you had in mind?
There was nothing. I had no intention of going to university. My whole objective was to leave on a one-way ticket and travel the world.
Okay.
So that journey of starting with the paper round, that was my first entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
Because every day the truck would deliver the newspapers. They would deliver on some days another batch of flyers and brochures. And so, of course, you can put them into the letterbox individually, but some days there'd be newspapers that had the flyers inside. So, of course, that had a perceived value, all right, a higher perceived value. So I thought, okay, well, I'll put them in the newspapers.
Enterprising there.
Absolutely. And then I started delivering the newspapers. You know, in Australia, it's suburban, long driveways, big backyards, and very little letterboxes.
Yeah.
And there was also an older generation. So what I would do on the rainy days, I would run up these long driveways and actually put the newspaper in their door so it didn't get wet and soggy.
Good service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was just initiative that was just inherent, and I just started understanding that whole process of value and service and customer care. And
Wow.
And of course, that all led to bonuses at Christmas time.
Okay. And so how long did you do this job?
Probably 4 years.
4 years. So
Yeah.
for 4 years, and this was like all year round during the whole school year,
All year
summer.
round. That's right. So
You
up
were
at
just-
5 a.m.
Unbelievable. You were working hard at the age of 8.
And that was just one job,
You had another one.
right? That developed into others as well.
What did you springboard from there to?
It was any area that I could get a job as a 10, 12-year-old at that point. So I was working in like a fine wine and delicatessen, so preparing gourmet sandwiches in the morning before work. And that also led to working in a sports store after school. So it was just looking at jobs that you could work at that age that would fit the schedule. You still had to go to school.
And the motivation was to have money? Was it for just you wanted to have spending money, a little cash in your pocket?
It was to grow. It was to save. It was to maintain independence. I mean, I had full freedom.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So where most people haven't had their first job until after university, you know, I'd already been working for 10 or 12 years.
That's pretty amazing.
So I was working towards life goals, travel, explore the world, one-way ticket, freedom. And that was my whole focus.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
And did you play any sports in high school? High school sports or?
Yeah, I played tennis, golf, mainly were the main sports, but you're always surfing, skateboarding, and being active, rugby, hockey, you know, whatever it was at school as well.
And did you go to university?
Yeah, I ended up going to university.
In Australia?
In Australia.
Okay. What did you study there?
Exercise physiology and psychology.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had no intention of going to university.
But that just kind of happened?
Well, I was still committed to finishing high school and leaving on a one-way ticket.
Wow.
Because I was cashed up, right? I had my independence. I had my freedom.
You had your savings ready to go.
Had savings. Yeah, that's right. You know, I'd already bought my first car at 16 years of age.
Okay.
Right, with my own money. So that was a little bit of a detour. It was probably the last 2 years of high school I started really enjoying the health sciences. So we were the first year in the country to start learning about anatomy, physiology, right? It's like an extension of biology.
Yeah.
And looking at that physical health and learning anatomy, it just opened up the door to seeing human performance, right? Understanding the science and the evolution of man. So that's what got me going in this industry.
So that was kind of like the beginning, the spark. It was the university that you went to, and you graduated in a degree in physiology and psychology. So it was double major. Double major. Okay. Yep. Very good. Very ambitious. And then graduated. And then what happened? Where did you go from there?
Then I landed my first job. All right. So that was that offer and opportunity that made me stay a little bit longer.
Okay.
So I thought I would do that for a year, gain some experience, and then venture off. And that 1 year turns into 2. And then I knew it was time to go.
And this was in Sydney?
This was my time. This is all in Sydney.
All in Sydney. So 2 years at this job. What was the job?
As a personal trainer.
Okay.
So that was my first job in a health club, in a fitness environment. And that was probably my first mentor as well.
Okay. So you had a mentor starting from there.
I had a phenomenal boss. And she definitely inspired many of us.
Yeah, mentorship. That's super
Yeah.
important. And so she inspired you to continue pursuing this field, this category, the health and
It wasn't so
fitness?
much to pursue, it was just to be the best professional you could possibly be.
Gotcha.
Right? So fostering that direction of growth, continual learning, delivery of services, and going beyond just what the industry presents,
Okay.
right? What it looks like from the outside.
So you worked with her or for her for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then left finally on your
Yep.
one-way ticket?
That was it. One-way ticket.
Okay, where did that first ticket go?
Straight to London.
London, okay.
Yeah.
What was there for you?
Well, because my parents are English,
Yeah.
I have a British passport.
Ah, okay.
All right. So that's kind of the gateway to Europe.
Yep.
So the initial goal was just to travel Europe in the summer for 6-8 months and take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you traveled Europe and you traveled different parts of the world in succession after that, right? Or
So the initial goal was to settle in Europe. But actually, before I'd left Sydney, one of my personal training clients in Sydney was the producer of Australia's largest sports channel. And that same year, in 98, was also the Commonwealth Games in Malaysia. So I'd already worked for this guy, and I'd already arranged work in Malaysia in 98. So with that initial flight to London and to the UK, travel Europe, I had a return ticket to Singapore so I could get to Malaysia and travel Asia for a little bit. Then I had the intention of going back to the UK, which never happened.
never happened.
Never happened.
So Malaysia came and you did the games.
Yeah.
What do they call them?
It's the Commonwealth Games.
Commonwealth Games. Yeah. So
yeah.
What was your participation in that? What did you do?
Just working on the media side.
Oh, so media
So
side.
it wasn't specific to coaching or the training or athletic development side of things. It was just, again, an opportunity to be in touch and absorb into a global event.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you actually got the behind the scenes experience as opposed to being in the sort of the fitness kind of part of the games.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you said that was it. You didn't go back to London. What was it that kept you in Asia? Or did you stay in Malaysia or did you go somewhere else after?
I traveled Malaysia for a couple of months.
Okay.
And actually, before I'd left Sydney, I'd applied for a job. All right. There's going through the job opportunities. There was a very small ad in the biggest newspaper, and it was for a fitness manager in a health resort in Thailand.
Ooh, okay.
No logo, no brand, no name, no website. And so I sent off my resume.
Wow. So this was sent off before you left Sydney.
So I'd already planted that seed.
And then did they just reach out to you eventually at some point?
No, they never reached out.
Okay. So so did you get any, did that job come up or it never happened or?
So after Malaysia,
Yeah.
I crossed the border into Thailand.
Okay.
And I took a train from Hat Yai to Hua Hin.
Okay.
And that was my first night in Thailand
Okay.
back in 98.
1998, first time in Thailand.
Yeah.
And so what were you thinking? Were you like looking for work or you just exploring or?
Yeah. Staying curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very curious.
So I landed in Hua Hin, found a guest house, and I went and knocked on the door.
Okay.
I went to this resort to go and see what it was all about and see if I could have a conversation.
Okay. Looking for employment there perhaps or?
Yeah. So that was a Saturday. And I went to ask for the GM, right? I wanted to speak with the GM. It was her day off. And they said, she's not available today. She's off. I said, is there anyone else I can speak with? They said, no, you have to make an appointment. So I was like, okay. Left and went back on the Sunday, did the same thing. She's not available. Is there anyone else I could speak with? And then I spoke with the fitness manager. So I had a tour of the resort and she was like, yeah, I remember seeing your resume.
Wow.
So it was just that. And I had a friend from the UK coming to visit. So we were going off to travel in Thailand. And a week later, I got the call to say that, hey, we'd like to offer you a job.
So this resort was the one you sent your resume to. Did you know that?
That's right.
Did you know that was
Yeah,
there?
I did. So
you
that
did.
it was deliberate to actually
I got you.
drop off in Hua Hin and go and have a look at this health resort and see if I could
good.
spark some opportunities.
Okay, knock on that. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So and then a week later they hired you.
Yep, that's right.
And then full-time job, how long were you working there for?
I was there for a little over a year and a half,
Okay.
nearly 2 years.
And then
Yeah.
what happened after that?
After that, so I'd resigned from that position because I didn't see a future. The fitness manager at that point was going to renew her contract and was doing a great job. So I went to pursue travel interests, scuba diving, explore Asia, and just keep it open to opportunities. At that point, that resort, Chivasom, which is one of the world's most renowned and famous wellness destinations, health resorts and retreats, we really pioneered this entire concept of hospitality, wellness.
In Hua Hin.
In Hua Hin.
During those 2 years you were there.
During those 2 years.
So was there a significant evolution in that company's fitness business part since you got there?
Absolutely. So the resort had been open for maybe 4 or 5 years before we got there, sitting on average less than 30% occupancy. So building an incredible reputation. So a lot of famous actors and actresses and billionaires would go there for their retreats. And there was just magic in the team. There was a young team from Australia, New Zealand, the UK, all in our early 20s, early and mid 20s. And that includes the chefs and the management. And there was just this magic, just transformation of everything within this space of Chivasom, because it is a haven and there is some magic in there.
Yeah.
And we were just collaborating together, doing what we did, having fun and taking it to another level.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really an amazing time.
Yeah, like the planets were definitely aligned there. The stars at least were aligned. Yeah, that's cool. But then you decided, okay, she's not going to renew her contract, or she is, or she. And then
she was going to renew. That's why I resigned.
But you didn't want to stick around because she was there, or?
No, it was just, I was still young.
Yeah.
I still had that
exploring
desire to explore.
Yeah.
That's right. So of course it was good experience. Keep moving on.
So what was the next step from there for you?
Well, from there, that resort, Chivasom, was consulting to open up a health resort in India.
Okay.
So my girlfriend at the time, we then went to represent Chivasom and open up this retreat in India, in Bangalore.
Wow, so that was a huge initiative.
Massive.
Yeah.
I mean, think India as it is now, you imagine 25 years ago.
And so it was your part of the team that said that we're going to launch this brand here and open this up. Is that what they tasked you with?
Right. So we went to open up the spa and the wellness
Wow.
side of this resort.
That must have been very challenging.
Not challenging at all.
No.
Yeah, because India is a country that you just need to be open, right, and just go with it.
Okay.
Right? Because you can't set expectations.
Yeah.
And the people are amazing.
Wow.
Right? So different challenges, and there is very much a wellness culture within India, right? With Ayurveda, and it's very spiritual, and the people are very chill.
Wow.
Yeah, so it brought other challenges with management perhaps,
Yeah.
but not with the actual people themselves and getting on and doing what we did best.
So how long were you guys there for?
About 18 months as well.
18
months. Yeah, a little over a year.
That was enough to launch and get it going and rolling?
So the building, the construction, the resort was already there. It was already open. It was more of the integration of the wellness side into the operations.
So it seems like this might have been like your first experience in kind of a launching or starting of a business.
Yeah, it was.
So
At that point, well, it could be the second actually.
Okay.
So the first is actually back on the paper round days.
Okay, so the paper route was your first initial entrepreneurial experience. This was the second one.
Well, I had a mini landscaping business.
Of course.
Right, which was an extension, right? So if we go back to those flyers and the brochures,
Yeah.
I could see a need.
Yeah.
There is an older population. They need their grass cut.
Of course.
They need some basic landscaping. So my dad was a printer. So we printed out flyers. We put them in the newspaper so it looked like a real business.
It's good.
And then we would deliver that.
That's good.
It's probably number 2.
Very good marketing tactic there.
That was my first true entrepreneurship experience.
Interesting. So it's been kind of in your DNA, it seems, from an early age. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just comes down to initiative.
Yeah.
Right? Entrepreneurship is an extension of initiative.
It
So
is.
when you're hungry and you making choices and decisions that are moving you forward to go and explore and be curious. You become very opportunistic
Yeah.
without fear. And those doors open new doors.
And how much of it is ambition too? I feel like ambition is a spectrum, and everybody sits on it somewhere else on the spectrum. I feel like your ambition was high. You were early on.
Very ambitious and fearless.
Yeah.
And it was never a challenge. It was never difficult because it was just loving the process.
Yeah, you're really
enjoying the journey.
That's cool.
You know, it might sound cliche, but I think that is really essential when it comes to entrepreneurship is you've just got to love the process.
Yeah. And just see what every day brings because you don't know what tomorrow is going to be like.
Yeah. Stay curious.
Yeah.
Be resourceful.
Wow. Okay. And so India, you guys launched this brand, this resort, 18 months. What happened next? Where did you go from there?
From there, that project finished. And then we both started working for another hospitality company that was quite wellness oriented. They're called Six Senses.
Mm-hmm. Where?
All right. So Six Senses and Suniva. So Suniva was initially founded in the Maldives. All right. So an integrated spa health resort. And they were opening in Thailand, in Hua Hin as well, by chance.
Mm.
And this was the launch of a new brand called Evason.
Okay.
All right. But it was under the umbrella of Six Senses. So we were the first kind of migration from Chivasom into Six Senses back in the day.
And so this was back to Thailand.
Back to Thailand.
With your girlfriend.
Back to Hua Hin.
With your girlfriend.
At the time.
And she was also kind of in the health and...
She was the spa manager at Chivasom, and she was head of spa and wellness.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you guys came back to Thailand, and then what did you do there at that point?
So we worked with the opening of these properties, and then it was time to venture into the big city.
Okay.
So that brought us to Bangkok.
To Bangkok. What year was this?
Big Smoke.
Yeah, Big Smoke.
That would have been 2000, 2001.
2000, 2001. And going to Bangkok with a goal in mind of some sort, or just let's just go there and see what happens?
It just seemed where you needed to be. Obviously, Hua Hin, coastal resort towns. You've got, back then there was no internet.
Yep.
Right. It was a dirt road. There were 5 hotels.
5 hotels.
5 main 5-star hotels.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So very different to what you see today.
Yeah.
But it was actually at that point where I felt I was going to lose my edge in Asia. Right. So, of course, where's the mecca of health and fitness globally? It's the US.
Right.
So I took an opportunity to consult of an opening of a resort in Mexico.
Okay.
All right. So that kind of took me to that side of the world. And that was the opportunity to check out the mecca of health in the US and look at the East and West Coast and see if that was an opportunity to explore further.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what did you stay in Mexico, or were you working in a business there?
Just there for a short-term contract, 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And then I went into check out the East Coast and the West Coast of the US.
Kind of exploring the whole industry.
Yeah, check out the industry, see where it was at, see if there were opportunities, look at opportunities to work and stay there for a couple of years maybe.
So what was like the big aha moment, or what was the biggest surprise that you realized in the US in this business? What did you see that surprised you?
Yeah, I was surprised with the fact that it wasn't what I thought it would be.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't say I was disappointed, but I was expecting more.
Yeah, it wasn't your expectation.
Because I was seeking opportunities to grow and evolve. And of course, I didn't look extensively, but from what I could see from the time that I did spend there, the coin just dropped and it was like, Dan, you need to get back to Asia and pioneer an industry.
Okay.
Right? You need to go and set up and do it your way and create an impact. And so when that coin dropped, I mean, that was it. I was back to Bangkok, and that's where it really started.
How long in the U.S. before you went back?
Probably spent about 6 months there.
6 months. That was enough. You're like, this is
more than enough.
This is not for me.
Yeah.
Back to Thailand, back to Bangkok.
Back to Bangkok.
And at that point, going back to Bangkok, did you have kind of a mission in your mind at that point? Like, this is what I want to focus on. This is what did you have some sort of goal that you wanted to achieve?
I did, and I thought about it a long time. Right? I had multiple business plans and looking at the market, and what we started doing was the corporate wellness. So it wasn't the personal training and that health side of things. It was immediately corporate, and it was to help develop culture and health and performance within an organization. All right, so employee wellness, leadership, and the development of people to be the best that they could possibly be.
Okay.
Right, so very, very early.
Okay, so this is like 2002, 2003?
Yeah, 2003 by that point.
And so what did you start at that point? A company? What did you do?
Yeah, we started the company. And
you say we. Who's we?
Well, I guess that's me. See, that's an entrepreneur speaking.
Okay.
Inclusive.
Okay, inclusive. Okay.
It was just me.
Okay, it's just you. That's good. I like that. To make it sound like it's a big team, that's good.
Well, yeah, there's that part.
Yeah.
And of course you have lawyers, right? You've got a team of individuals. They may not be invested in the business, but I couldn't do it all myself.
No chance. Yeah.
Right? So you're outsourcing. You've got to be resourceful and do your due diligence and find the right accountants and lawyers, and so there's always a we
and
involved.
That just alone must have been challenging to find these people that could be on your team to help you. Like, how was that?
Yeah.
How was that as a challenge?
Well, you learn your hard lessons, right? You trust people that they're going to deliver.
Okay. Disappointments?
Okay, so, well, many, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are all part of the process as well.
Yeah. Learning their...
So, I don't think I've met anyone who hasn't had some challenge or difficulty on the legal or the financial components of business in Thailand.
Yeah. So you found eventually the people that could help you, the accountants, the lawyers. What was the business model? What was it? It was corporate wellness. Exactly.
Corporate wellness. So ergonomics, leadership, employee wellness, managing stress.
And what was the name of the company?
FitCorp.
FitCorp.
That was it.
That's the beginning of FitCorp.
That was the beginning.
FitCorp. Wow. So FitCorp has now been around 20 plus years.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was that's the grandfather. That's the umbrella.
That is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because
I wanted a brand and a business that represented exactly what we did.
FitCorp. Okay.
And of course, with fitness, it's not just physical, it's mental, financial, physical. So it was all integrated into the path and the vision that we had.
Okay. So you started this. Now, did you start it in a gym? Did you start it in an office? What was did you have a place of business for this?
We started in an office.
Okay.
Because it was B2B.
Okay.
Right? There was no personal training or coaching taking place on a one-to-one basis.
Were there gyms in Thailand or Bangkok yet at that time? Like,
no commercial gyms at that point. Most of the gym facilities were 5-star hotels.
Okay. That's it. That's where you had to go to the gym.
That was it. That's where it was. Wow. So which is part of the journey as well. So doing these ergonomic programs, there was some interest, but very little perceived value. For companies to actually invest in health, ergonomics, stress.
It's quite a foreign concept, I can imagine then. But how did you do the reaching out? Was it just calling and reaching out and speaking to somebody and saying, can I have an appointment? How did that? I mean, these are sales calls. I imagine you did.
Literally knocking on doors.
Yep.
Networking, connecting with people.
Yeah.
And creating opportunities to go and have conversations.
And you're reaching out to just other companies and businesses that I just share this idea with them and see what kind of interest. Not an easy sell, I'm sure.
That's right. So, as a coach, you learn the power of questions.
Okay.
So rather than going to sell and present something, you're asking to have conversations with HR to be looking at their retention, sick leave, their turnover, productivity. And so these initial questions would identify whether there was a prospect that would be likely to deploy and implement a program like this, right? So,
Finding
I
pain
learned
points,
a lot.
sort of,
Yeah, exactly right.
the business.
And do they have the level of awareness that they see the opportunity?
They see value.
Do they understand why you would even look towards developing healthy, engaged, stress-free team players?
You're introducing something that does not exist at that time.
100%.
It's so difficult to do that.
It's difficult now.
It still is.
So I say that, we were 20 years ahead of our time.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, we're still 20 years ahead of our time.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
there's definitely more awareness there, but there are still
leaps
a
and
long
bounds.
way to go.
So then in the beginning, how many staff did you have? Did you have to do hiring quickly, or was it just you alone and that was?
Yeah, we've always been very lean.
So in the beginning, how many staff? What was the first hire? Who was the first hire?
The first lawyer was the lawyer.
Okay.
Okay, of course.
You hired a lawyer full time, or?
We did initially.
Wow.
That's right, because we wanted our contracts tight.
Wow.
Right, and those agreements. So they had some other skills as well that they could add value to. And the first employee was another trainer, a health coach, or had some ergonomic background.
Okay. Okay. So those are the first two members of FitCorp.
That's right.
Including you.
Yeah.
So three person team.
And then I had a friend who was doing some business development as well. All right.
Okay.
So they were helping with the outreach.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. And then, so who was the first client?
Well, the first client wasn't a corporate. That's right.
Okay.
It was a hotel.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that initiated a conversation because there were executives that I'd spoken to, but their interest, their need was for their own health. Okay. And they were a member of a five-star hotel. And so that is where the first pivot happened. Then we started establishing businesses and teams, personal training teams, into five-star hotels in Bangkok. That was 2004.
So you started inserting these fitness centers. I don't know, what do you call them? Fitness.
So they already had their gym facilities.
Yeah.
They have their staff, but no one was offering personal training.
So you brought that into the first.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another pioneer.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were the first personal training organization in Thailand back then.
And it was still called FitCorp. There was no new name.
It was still FitCorp.
Still FitCorp. And so
That's right.
the first client was a hotel, and you began offering training to their staff or to hotel guests, or both?
To their members.
To their members.
Right.
The members of their gym.
That's right.
So those were the first gyms in Thailand, which were only in hotels, and people, I can see that. So that's where it really began. And those gyms had to have been small.
Some of them were very extensive.
Oh.
Yeah. So you could look at JW Marriott as an example, and some of those five-star gyms in the day, very extensive, amazing facilities. You've got your wet rooms, spas, you've got saunas, and large gym areas. Because think about it, this is also where the affluent go to entertain.
Yeah.
You didn't have that extensive food and beverage industry of restaurants and hospitality back then. So most people would go and entertain their clients or spend time in five-star hotels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you guys were the first ones to offer training.
Yes.
And
That's
so
right.
Is that hotel still around?
They are around. That was Sheraton Grand.
Sheraton Grand
Assop,
Sukhumvit.
your favorite place.
Okay. Wow.
And JW Marriott.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so those are the first two clients. And then from there, where did you expand to beyond that? More hotels or just different businesses?
Well, that's where the first
pivot
challenge
okay, first challenge
embraced.
Okay.
Yeah. So by then we had a couple of foreign trainers, and that was the first big lesson to learn around trust and around loyalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened?
That's where it was first broken. Well, I ended up with a trainer who was very arrogant and aggressive, and who decided, well, hey, I don't need you anymore. I got my clientele. And it was just a very short conversation of, we're taking over. Wow. I'm going to keep my clients. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah.
And this was a trainer of yours from where? Where did this?
Probably he was from the US.
From the US. And so it's like, yeah, I've now learned this business, and I've got this relationship now with all these clients, of course, because they're meeting with them. It's not too difficult to just leave you and take them with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's tough. Like, how do you had to figure out a lot of stuff to avoid that in the future?
Well, the hardest part was the management of the hotel itself.
Okay.
Right? So there was no loyalty. There was no perceived value of, okay, Dan's come in and created all these revenue opportunities and established these new service areas for us. He's got an issue with a staff member. Whose side are we on?
Wow.
So they were on their own side. We're like, it's not my problem. So that was the first kind of slap in the face and the wake-up call to say, right, if you want to establish a brand, an identity, and a reputation, you can't do that in a third-party space. You have to be independent. So that forced us to then open up our first independent space very close to the hotel, and that was our first studio.
Okay.
Right? So again, looking back of those challenges and events as a forcing function forced us to then seek independence and establish our own brand, our own space.
And was that the first pivot?
That was the first pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then you exited from those hotels and moved over to your new facility. Now you've got your own space, you've got your own brand, your own company, independent.
That's right.
And then from there, what was the next step? What was the next goal?
We started niching into golf fitness and performance. So we started consulting with the Thai national team and working with junior golfers.
Wow.
Right, to introduce them to fitness and conditioning to optimize their golf performance.
So that was
another pivot.
So that was your first client, sort of, in this new business, was the golf.
We still had executives and personal training clients.
Yeah, and they were now
coming. But that was me starting to identify the niches. Okay.
And this was still called FitCorp? Was
still FitCorp.
And was there a new name? It was
under our brand.
Nothing?
No, we just kept the same brand.
Kept the same brand. And this was right there near the Sheraton Grand Sukhumvit Hotel.
That one was near JW.
JW, okay.
Soy 2.
Soy 2, okay. And so from there, how long were you focused on that space and that business model there? For how long? We
were there for maybe 2 years.
2 years.
That's right.
And then what happened?
We had a bigger team. We had more clients. And so it was time to expand and find the new space.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. So success.
So from Soy 2, we found a space and renovated a space in Soy 19.
Okay.
And we tripled in size, expanded the team, coaches, admin, marketing, PR.
So the growth was happening and the success was clear. So you guys are gaining traction at that point.
Yeah.
And so the new space, triple the size. And from there, was there a lot of room for you guys to continue to grow in that space, or?
There was.
How long were you guys there?
We were there for another maybe 4 years.
4 years.
We were there for quite some time.
Were we like 2010 yet? Or
Yep, 2010.
2010. Okay. And then at that point, what was the next move from there?
Well, from there, even before then, it wasn't just the studio space. So it was the personal training. We were the first to start doing small group training, SGTs. And we also started running boot camps in the park. So we were running boot camps twice a day, 6 days a week for literally 10 years.
Wow. Who were these clients for that? Expats or locals?
It was all mixed.
Okay.
Yeah. So expats, Thais, Thai Indians, right? They're savvy. Indians are savvy. Thai Indians. So they are global, right? They're very aware of where the world is.
Yep.
So of course, that was a big part of our success early. right? Because very community oriented, word of mouth, word spreads quickly. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so then you guys are now doing a lot of different things in the fitness space, expanded a lot. 2010, do you remember roughly how many staff you had at that point?
I think we had 5 coaches at the time.
5 coaches. There's some admins
Yep.
you guys had.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4
3 or 4, so maybe 8
at that time.
8 to 10 employees. And the growth was consistent? Was it growing year on year?
Every year. Growing.
Every year?
Yeah.
And was your ambition adjusting with that as well? Were you finding yourself like seeing more opportunity and seeing more potential for growth and figuring out what else can we do? Was that happening too?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a couple of very fundamental core team players at the time that we ended up going into business with. So that's when we knew it was time to evolve and continue to innovate the industry. So that's where we got some investors and we expanded into the next location, which was right at ASOC BTS. So currently where Jets is,
Okay.
that was Aspire for 10 years.
So that was in addition to what you were at, or was it a
No,
move?
we moved.
You moved.
That's right.
So you moved into this new building where it's a big gym right now over there, Jets. And
Yeah.
so you guys took over that space, the same space.
Yeah.
That's a big building, like multiple levels.
Yeah, it was 4 stories.
4 stories.
Yeah,
And that was Aspire.
that was Aspire.
That was the second brand.
That's right.
And
so that's where it all started. That was that full evolution.
Okay, so was that the next pivot?
That was the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to pivot, though, it wasn't because what you were doing was not successful and what it was working. This was, I mean, is it a pivot or was this just an expansion?
It would be an evolution.
Evolution.
Right? It was the next phase.
Yeah.
Right? It was how we were evolving.
Yeah.
We had bigger vision, bigger impact. And that's where we were the first CrossFit affiliate in Bangkok.
CrossFit.
So we made that CrossFit, that urban rooftop CrossFit box famous globally.
So
That was it.
Were you guys a franchisee of CrossFit at that
We were an
point?
affiliate.
Affiliate. What year was that?
That was 2011.
2000. Was that the beginning of CrossFit or was it?
It had already been around and established globally.
So
Yeah.
I'm really curious about this space. Okay, this is a big building.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it. And to move from where you were before to that's a big leap. Like
It was a big jump.
big.
Yeah.
And so rent, huge difference, had to have been.
Everything was bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots more more responsibility there and lots more overhead. How did that feel? Like what was that? What was your mindset from that?
We had the potential to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good confidence. Good.
We've already got an established clientele. So we've already got cash flow.
Yeah.
It's not like we're renovating, opening, and investing and having to start from zero.
Yeah.
All right. We have an established clientele and cash flow. So it was more of looking at the numbers of what do we need to make sure that we retain, and then what do we need to do to get ahead.
But
So
earlier you talked about investors. Who were these investors and what were they investing? What was the business there? What happened?
they were in different industries. So they'd been successful in their own right and their own journeys. And so they're silent investors.
So silent investors investing in FitCorp and Aspire or to help get this.
Right. So Aspire is a brand,
Okay.
right, under FitCorp Group.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these investors helped, I guess, this move to a bigger.
Fund the renovations and the expansion.
That must have been expensive and stressful, I imagine. Like going through the renovation, managing that. Like, did you manage that yourself?
It was a fun project.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still, 27
Okay.
at that stage. So it's just young and you're excited and you do whatever it takes.
And you're
not afraid of hard work.
And you're learning how to manage contractors and dealing.
Designers.
So
construction.
And how long was the whole build out process? How long did that take?
It was about 6 months.
6 months. And you were part of the design? Like, were you involved heavily with the design of these? This was 4 floors of.
And the building was vacant. It had been vacant for 3 or 4 years.
So there's nothing there.
That's right. So it was literally an empty shell,
So you could do whatever you wanted.
broken. It it was raw.
Yeah. How long was that
Right,
initial lease?
3 plus 3 plus 3.
Okay. So with the
Right.
options.
So it's a 9-year commitment.
Yeah, 9-year commitment.
Right.
So you finished building out the space. It looks beautiful, I imagine. You must have been very happy and proud of that.
It was stunning for its time.
And was the first
sure.
like non-hotel gym in Bangkok?
You know, I think by that stage, California Wow had opened in Ceylon.
Okay, so there was another concept that was.
Well, that was when we started. By this time, 2012, there was already Fitness First was already in the market.
Okay.
And California Wow had evolved into California Fitness.
Okay. Yeah, and so you guys were still.
Or actually, it's the other way around.
Okay.
They started off as California Fitness, and then they pivoted and rebranded into California Wow.
Okay. And so you guys were the pioneers here in Thailand, in Bangkok. And that whole space, how long were you in that building?
9 years.
9 years. And so you completed your 9-year lease. What happened there? Did you change? What changed? Why did you guys leave?
There's lots that had happened in between as well.
Yeah. So what was...
We were consulting. We had franchise in India, consulting for a project in Manila. You know, there's lots in between the lines of this journey. But of course, as the fitness industry continued to evolve, so personal training studios, group training studios, more gyms, more clubs, and that's when the group training cycle was really starting to pick up. So of course, we'd been doing it for a long time, but you start to notice shift in consumer behavior. All right. So then you've got things like ClassPass. So you've got an opportunity for consumers to just train in multiple gyms, right? And have lots of variety, right? Keep pushing that dopamine. And so it's more challenging to build and maintain a community, number one. But also it means that they're less likely to get results. All right, because they're just chasing variety and movement and entertainment. All right, so it's social, it's community-based.
Yeah.
They're there to be healthy, to have fun, to be fit, to be active, which is amazing as well. And so it's very difficult for studio-based gyms and classes to differentiate. What sets them apart? What makes them different? Right? Is it the interior design? Is it the people? Is it the class structure? They're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So for us being a pioneer, it was very clear and evident to me that I didn't want to be just another random option to a consumer, a prospect, or a client. Because from the outside looking in, well, they're just all different class formats and different location, and they're fun.
Yeah.
So that was the clear indication that our future with the current business model was limited. And that we were going to have to pivot.
Yeah, this is the next
So this
pivot.
is where it came.
This is the big one. And this is where the business really evolved in a significantly different direction. Is that right?
We went full circle.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So instead of offering boot camps, the group training, the CrossFit, and all of these, it was evident that if our primary mission is to help clients achieve transformative results, right? We've always had a science-based approach to results, looking at that habitual architecture, sleep, nutrition, the exercise, stress, right? We've been doing genetic profiling for clients since 2012.
Genetic profiling.
Right. So a very precision science-based approach to health.
Okay.
So for us to differentiate and continue to establish our brand, our reputation, our authority, you've got to be focused on results.
Yeah.
Not on the entertainment and the experience.
Right.
They're all important, right? To keep people engaged and have fun and enjoy the process. And so that was the time where I knew we were going to go full circle, stop all group training, and double down and go back to the core foundations of private coaching.
Wow. Big change.
So that would innovate, that allows us to continue to pioneer that space and stand out as the leader in result-based health coaching.
Yes. So you guys moved from Jets space over there to where you are currently today?
And there was something in between as well.
Okay. Let's hear it. What's in between?
So there were a couple of other successful studios doing well, and they had a couple of coaches and clients leave and open up other gyms, right? It's the natural part of the industry.
Clients opening up their own gyms.
With trainers
Okay.
of other gyms.
Okay.
Right? Because you establish relationships,
Yeah.
you build bonds, you share ideas, you hang out, you seek opportunities, and you think, hey, we could do something, but do it better or different.
Yeah.
And they created a beautiful, stunning space. But you have to have better systems. There's more to a successful business than just having a beautiful space.
Yeah.
Right? There are so many nuances that will determine the longevity and success of a business in the health and fitness industry. And so they had their challenges, and they were looking to sell. They were looking for a way out. So I managed to negotiate an attractive deal.
Okay.
But because I already had this conversation with the team of where we were going, this was kind of a sidetrack.
Yeah.
I didn't make that decision. I left it to the team and say, guys, this is the situation. Here is an opportunity. You want to pursue it? Do you want to see if we can make it work? And so that was why we had 2 locations at that time. But the interesting thing was at Aspire, we always had an independent private space for personal training. Whereas most gyms you see, if they're offering group classes and private training, it's all in the same space.
Yeah.
All right, so you lose that edge.
The uniqueness.
You don't have the privacy or the exclusivity.
Yeah.
All right, it becomes disruptive. And it's like training inside the middle of a group class.
Yeah.
All right, so I think there were a lot of things that were evident that we established initially at Aspire, which makes it more challenging for group training and personal training to coexist. It certainly can. I think it all depends on your clientele. All right, so our demographic being that higher end executive and professional, they're looking for exclusive private environments.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what we continue to deliver even today.
So this business that you took over, that you bought, everybody agreed, let's take it over. What happened to that? Is it still there? Is it still happening?
No, it closed.
And why is that?
The rent was outrageous. Yeah.
It was a
deal
beautiful,
breaker.
beautiful space, but high rent.
Beautiful space, right? One of the most beautiful gyms you've ever come across at that time.
So this must have been a root problem that they were already having, I would imagine. And so you, I guess, did some penciling and made it look like it might be something you could do better and make it work over there.
Yeah, it's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the business operations and the expenses and the people, all those resources that you need are related to group training and community.
Yeah.
Right. But the revenue comes from the private training.
Interesting.
So you think that you could get the right combination of both and get the best of both worlds. But there is challenges to get that to work in a common space.
That's a very difficult balancing act to find that. Couldn't do it there.
So that's why we already had the game plan. We knew what we were doing. And even while that was operating, that's when I found the space where we currently are to lock down and go back to that science-based private training experience.
Okay. And so the other place eventually closed. How long were you there?
18 months.
18 months. And then that was it. Full focus.
Full focus.
On Aspire at the new space. Walk me through the business model that you have now today in that business.
The key element is the integration of a science-based approach. So that means, some people call it holistic, where you're now looking at an individual's lifestyle or doing nutrition. For me, that's not just holistic, that's just a minimum standard, right? That's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's not the Dan standard.
No, that's right. So we have integrated physical therapy. So we have our clinic in another space in the same building.
Yeah.
And a lot of our coaches are actually physiotherapists. So this is the first foundational level of an integrated health approach. Now, the science also comes from genetic profiling. We're also looking at clients' blood work. So we're looking at the data. We're not guessing. We're eliminating the guesswork. And that way you can develop a precision, totally customized and personalized approach to an individual health plan.
Yeah.
All right. So that's really the first step that we're looking at. So if you're looking at the health and fitness industry, you're looking at the medical industry, we are that bridge, right? So bringing that together with personalized lifestyle coaching that are backed by, that it's data driven, that are leading to those metabolic, physical, mental, and longevity goals.
And so now your clients are primarily what? Give me an example of your clientele demographic.
Well, back from our FitCorp origins, it's always been that kind of 40, 50-year-old executive or professional and business owners.
Okay.
Right? And it still is today.
Still is this? Okay.
Yeah.
And currently, how many clients do you have?
In excess of 100.
Okay. And
in the hundreds.
And these clients, are they on a program that's how long typically?
It's a great question, and it's a little challenging to answer.
Yeah.
Because everyone is on their own journey and they're all looking for a solution in a different context.
Yeah.
Typically, though, our client retention is astronomically high. So we've had some clients, especially some of our Thai clients, for 10, 15, 18 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So that means that you have to continue to evolve and add value beyond their initial desired outcome.
They keep coming back for more, though.
Well, you've got to ask the right questions and you need to tap in and understand their aspirations, hence aspire. Right? Because aspirations and goals are very different.
Yeah, it's interesting.
A goal is a tangible outcome. Your aspirations are the reason, the purpose, and your why.
Yeah.
Why are those goals important to this individual? So when you can help an individual identify what they are, then they are a lot more engaged and accountable to that process.
Yeah. And so another technical question, financial question. Clients that are coming in, everybody's got a different need, everybody's got a different desire, different outcome that they're looking for. On average, what is somebody spending there on a monthly basis, roughly?
It will range. I mean, this all comes back down to the understanding of a solution that will support the needs of a client, whether it's financial or is it time-based and frequency-based.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you need to develop different solutions that meet different financial requirements.
Yeah.
So it could be as little as, $400 a month.
Yeah.
And that can go all the way up to $5,000 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
So
based on the components
yeah.
and the needs of that individual.
It's very bespoke. Yeah, I get it. Very
It's
cool.
a bit like health.
Yes.
Right? You know that there are the key 5 pillars of health that an individual needs. Right? That's standard for all of us. However, the solution or the program of the details of each of those is going to be unique to each individual.
What are the 5 key pillars?
Well, they would be sleep, fitness or movement, nutrition, stress, and habits.
Habits.
All right. So the habit or the habitual architecture is where it's all the mindset side of things, right? Because you've got to be able to engage in these conversations and learn people's limiting beliefs, their excuses, identify patterns of behavior. What are the ones that serve them? Where did they have evidence that they actually did break through and have some wins? So the whole mindset game is an essential component of this too.
Wow. And the business has been growing steadily year on year, every year, aside from the whole COVID thing.
Typically, yes.
Yeah.
And I think COVID was a great lesson for us that allowed me to be able to step back and be less operational.
Okay.
All right. So you start to really assess the industry opportunities. Where is the industry evolving? What are people's needs? What's changed since COVID? And it also gave the opportunity to explore other entrepreneurial ventures.
Yes.
Right.
Lots of other entrepreneurial ventures. I'm very curious about some of these, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Currently, this business, Aspire, how many staff do you have? What's your total staff?
We have just under 20.
20. And some of them have been there for quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had amazing team retention for a small organization.
Yeah. What's the longest number of years somebody's been working for you?
Probably 14 now.
14 years.
14.
So what do you attribute that to? The retention, to be able to have that kind of retention, because it's not easy. Businesses struggle with turnover, hiring and training and retaining and keeping that. What do you see that you're doing that's working?
There's definitely some luck.
Okay.
And I mean, look, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you are always, from my perspective anyway, you're always looking to create the most empowering, positive environment for your teams to grow and evolve. Right? We're not just in the health industry, we're really in the self-development space.
Yeah.
Right? We're in the business of helping develop others.
Yep.
Okay, so health is just one part of that. And giving the opportunity for your teams to grow, to learn, to develop themselves, to earn more, to establish their own position and levels of expertise in the industry, they're all different parts of retention.
Yeah.
You can't retain everyone. You just got to do the best you can to create that environment.
And
This is what I tell them.
Yeah.
I can't give you everything, but I can give you everything you need.
Okay. That's fair.
Right? Which means opportunities. Learn, develop yourself, invest in yourself, get uncomfortable, learn new skills.
Yeah. That's great. It's a great environment.
Right? And I think that's been a part of it.
Yeah.
As well as some of the other business systems, especially on the coaching team, that they have full independence around time. So they're not working on shifts. They don't have to be there 6 days a week. They have full autonomy and control over their schedule.
Does it help to be likable to work for you?
It's nice feedback.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with clients though.
Yeah.
You can deliver an amazing experience and ask them, how's everything going? You happy with the results? And it's all fantastic. The first question I ask is, that's fantastic, great to hear. What could we do better?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always seeking constructive feedback to improve.
Yep.
And I think that is our responsibility as business owners, is to be constantly looking at your team, identifying patterns, reassuring that they're happy in their path. Because I used to get very, let's say, emotional to a degree, because I would be frustrated because people were not taking advantage to develop themselves further. Okay, so my frustration of them just being comfortable and happy in their space, staying the same.
Complacency.
I was taking ownership of that. Yeah. It's not my place to do that.
Yeah.
Right? You want people to be happy. So what are most people looking for? Stress-free, happy, positive work environment, good financial returns, good colleagues, no gossip, Okay, so if you can create those elements, you've got most bases covered.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is ambitious and entrepreneurial.
That's right.
Right? So we're passing on our own expectations onto others, and it's not our place to do that.
And that's challenging to recognize that and acknowledge it. Yeah. And it sounds like you had to overcome that.
Yeah, that was part of my leadership journey too.
Yeah. That was a good growth stage for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was these other brands. Okay. FitCorp is the umbrella company, and it's got a lot of brands underneath it. And there's a lot. I looked it up, and it was just like 11. Now, 11, is that 11 brands or is that 11 companies?
They're brands.
The brands.
Right.
Okay. Now, are these all have sort of their own management team, or is this something that's just kind of something that you monitor? I'm just really curious about that.
Brands are also solutions.
Yeah.
So they might be very niched to a particular demographic.
Yeah.
So I would say they're all related to health and performance.
Yeah.
Right? Most of them. And so they would be particular brands that support a certain niche.
Yeah. And so it looks like there's 4 categories: health, coaching, performance, and business. A lot of the stuff we've talked about has been very health and fitness related, but then I see a couple of things that were not exactly health and fitness related. The Casa brand. Talk to me about Casa. What is that?
So that was a little side project and business that evolved during COVID.
Okay.
And I think one of the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur is that you're spinning many plates.
Yeah.
You've got lots of ideas. There's lots of things that you want to do. And looking back, I mean, we know it's less ideal than being hyper-focused.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was probably one of the biggest learnings in my early years, was trying to do too many things and expand before you'd really established success in one particular business.
So lack of focus was a challenge.
For sure. Well, we're visionaries. We've got lots of ideas, and that's why it's frustrating for your management teams to keep up, because unless you stay focused, you're always moving. You're always bringing new ideas to the table.
Yeah, that's challenging.
And so from those learnings, I said that once we'd pivoted just to really pioneer this precision, personalized health on the private coaching, genetic profiling, all this space, I wasn't going to start another business until I was absolutely sure of its longevity and that I was going to be able to make it work. So Casa is getting into lifestyle properties, all right, vacation villas and rentals.
And so you're marketing that, and is it just kind of running itself, sort of, or inquiries are coming in?
Just very organic.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not pushing or marketing or scaling or anything like that. We're just creating opportunities for people to co-invest. All right. So to co-own luxury villas.
It's an investment opportunity, essentially. And how is that going? Is there interest in that? Is it?
So there's first project is underway.
Okay. What is that?
Nearly at completion. Just a villa project.
And is this something
creating opportunities?
Is the villa being built from scratch?
Off the plan.
Where?
So you just get, well, we've got our future business model to expand in key jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. So it could be Phuket, could be Bali, could be global. Right? It's just looking at where people want to invest and have holiday destinations.
Okay. All right. Another brand I'm really curious about, I think it's Mind Fuel.
Mind Fuel.
This is a coffee bean brand?
Right.
Can you tell me, what are you guys doing there?
So again, when you look at what do people get passionate about? I mean, they get passionate about lots of things. Art, as an example.
Yeah.
Health, for sure. Coffee. People love, they're coffee connoisseurs. They love coffee.
It's a global obsession.
It's a culture.
Yes.
And so we know the health benefits of coffee and caffeine and its performance benefits. And so it was an opportunity to then combine a passion and link health to performance. All right. So looking at different ways that we could support local business, right? Pioneer and link it to a community that love their coffee, but they are also heavily interested in health and performance.
Interesting. So are you co-branding with some coffee concepts here in Thailand or?
We would just partner with local coffee growers.
And so what does that mean, partner? What do you guys do with them?
Well, we just buy from them.
I see. Okay. You buy from them and then.
Or we work with a partner who is already established with those relationships. And then we brand our own.
Okay. And then you're selling coffee beans?
Selling beans.
Amazing. Okay. All right. That's pretty, it's amazing. So there's a total of 11 brands, I see. And are there plans to add any more coming down the pipeline right now? Anything new coming down?
There's always the possibility.
There's always that. It's always there. Wow. Okay.
Remember, it's when you're niching, a new brand may not be a whole different industry or market product.
Yeah.
It might be an extension of a key service that you already do. And then you create a new brand that's going to be very targeted to a particular demographic or individual.
Yeah. Gotcha. You know, a question about the Aspire, okay, and FitCorp. At some point, it was running. You got it ramped up. It was very successful. Then came the pivot, and now you're currently where you are. You know, was there anything that surprised you about the business that you had after you got it going? Like anything that was just like aha moment for you?
I guess there's been many over the years. One of the key aha moments is still on people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a people business.
Yeah.
And whenever there's challenges or feedback that come up with the teams, I'm very open and I'm always encouraging contribution and feedback on our systems and how we do things, right? What should we continue to do? What's working? What do you think is not so useful in our process of how we manage client results and our operations? And if things aren't being followed as you expect, it's going to be one or two things. Is it a people problem or is it a process problem? And I would say 90% of the time, it's process, right? So you can look at why things haven't been done a certain way or where there's lacking compliance or QC, whatever, in the way that you manage expectations. But again, it's not about the people. It's not pointing your finger and saying they didn't do their job properly. It's a process. So when you're always open to improving and optimizing systems, simplifying the process, making sure your onboarding and your training processes are strong, regular feedback sessions, from multiple directions. And so the aha moment is that most people, majority, if not everyone, their intention is to do a great job.
Yeah.
It's not their intention to be lazy or not follow orders or instructions or a process or SOPs. It's a lack of follow-up or structure or a lack of education or training. So people genuinely, they are, especially for our industry, they are the reason that we exist, right? Because they are the ones that are delivering the service. All right, there's three parts of business. Number one is the vision. There is the risk to create and launch. Creating and launching is easy, right? That's why it's very easy to just have a startup. But to make it successful is a different story.
Yeah.
And then you've got the lead generation and the marketing, right? You need to be able to attract and then convert, right? So you can have the most beautiful facility with an amazing team, but if you can't market and convert, then there's no work for the people to actually deliver.
Yeah.
Right? And the third part of that process is delivery, right? You need to service the client. Collectively, then you need to be able to over-deliver value and expectation to increase retention.
Yeah.
All right? And that's why even with our physiotherapy, we have much higher retention because they're integrating into a long-term outcome. They're not just coming in, yes, they want to treat pain, but we know that the current model of rehabilitation fails people because they'll feel better. Most physios are just treating the symptom. So they do a couple of sessions and then they go off and back to normal life, and then they're in pain again because they're not addressing the root cause. So, things like that definitely help to develop the team and the people, but also the retention side of things too.
So do you think that you've had so much experience with starting businesses and launching businesses and, of course, running them, to keeping them successful? You've been doing it now 20 years, at least. What do you think? Is it easier or more difficult to start a business now than it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago?
No brainer. It is far easier to start a business today.
Is it? Why?
Because back then it had to be brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Right? There was no online, there was no scalability. You need
technology.
a physical location and attract people to your door. That's hands down.
So the barriers to entry are just much lower, and in most industries, including yours. Yeah.
And as we said, it's easy to launch.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's, you've got lots of solopreneurs, and it's much easier to scale to a global audience.
Yeah.
All right, virtually in any state.
And for you, you have the longevity. So you definitely have proven that everything you do is working, successful. What are you seeing long term? Are you seeing selling the business at some point? Are you seeing what are you seeing long term?
Built to sell?
Built to sell? Yeah.
It's an open question at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still kind of, I feel like there's still room for growth in what you're doing. And with all these other brands, there's a lot more spaces to continue to expand in, which would add more value to something that could be sold at some point.
Yeah, there's always those opportunities.
Yeah.
As we were sharing earlier too, it's about desire, right? Being 50 now, do I have the hunger to really continue to grow with that kind of intensity and risk? Or is there smarter ways to scale?
Yeah.
Are there more efficient ways to create bigger impact and scale your services and serve clients globally than just on a local front? All right, I'm super proud of what we've created with Aspire. And it's also an area where, well, what would I do without it? You might almost just lose yourself a little.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit there and do nothing. I'd have to go and do something else. But part of the drive to work through the challenges and to just get ahead that little bit further and continue to optimize, I could have given up years ago, multiple times.
Yeah.
All right, some of these big challenges. But why do you continue to push forward? You don't do it for yourself. You're doing it for your teams and for your clients. So when you've got true alignment to your purpose and the people that you are serving and supporting, they are the reason you get out of bed, right? It's not to get financial gain. It's got nothing to do with money. You can't have people in the health industry who are genuinely committed to their craft to be driven financially, right? It doesn't exist. So they are the questions.
Yeah. How would you say your ambition is compared to 25 years ago?
It's stealth. I would say it's stealth.
Explain that.
It's not an aggressive ambition.
Mm-hmm.
The ambition is very strategic. You have goals, you have purpose and a mission in life, and you're looking at a more collective, integrated way to achieve happiness, achieve balance. We talked about balance or integration, just to be happy, right? And just think we are primed to, and we are built to conserve energy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a survival mechanism. And I think with years of experience and wisdom, you want to do things more efficiently. So more is not better, more time, more effort. So you want to be able to reflect on those variables and move and grow and evolve, create that impact strategically.
Stealth ambition.
Stealth.
I like that.
Yeah.
What would you say were your biggest regrets, biggest mistakes that you made?
Yeah, there's definitely many. Like we covered before, it's not so much of a regret, but looking back and reflecting on what would have I done differently.
Yeah.
One of the big ones is looking for investors and partners, is not attracting enough capital to scale and be aggressive in the market, right? So we raised enough for a renovation for the initial maybe 3-6 months. And it means that in a very short amount of time, you are just spinning wheels, trying to break even, trying to pay the bills, cover those expenses. And so I think a lot of people just underestimate how much runway they need and how much they need in that initial round of investment to really give a good crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to have whatever that initial cost is to get that up and running, at least 6 months of revenue, or income, not income, of having capital to run the business with zero revenue if need be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, growing organically is tough.
Yeah.
Right? Building things from scratch on a shoestring is tough.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, when you've got that brick and mortar type business necessity, then you need a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always overshoot
Yeah.
for the funds. Good lesson.
Yeah. What about you? What was yours?
Oh, you got me there. What was mine? Biggest regret? Not scaling my business more than I could have, and not seeing other opportunities that I saw were obvious later, and just exploring more marketing. I didn't do marketing that I could have and I should have, and that would have been a game changer for our revenue, which would have made a big difference for our valuation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I look back at it exactly the same. I mean, I didn't study business or finance.
Yeah.
All right. I was just winging it from day one.
Yeah.
All right. My gut instinct, trying to get ahead, thinking of the short term and, a big mission, but no business education or background or management at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So in addition to the funding, definitely looking at a more aggressive growth strategy earlier on when we had the opportunity. So I think there's just so many learnings.
Yeah.
And things that we could have done differently or better.
Yeah. But you got to learn.
Yeah.
Can't do it
Yeah,
perfectly.
the only way.
You can't be perfect the first time.
Yeah, that's all how we've got to reframe failure as well.
Yeah.
Right? Success is only built on failures.
Yeah.
So if we can reframe failure into just feedback, we want to seek feedback all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And learn more efficient ways to grow and move forward.
Very good. Okay, so why do you think so many high-performing professionals struggle with health despite knowing better?
It's a great question. I get asked this a lot.
Yeah.
I think that the key point is misaligned values. Okay, so they're not aligning those components of health and performance with their financial goals. So their current priorities keep them stuck and focused in a different area, which kind of keeps their blind spots on. And they're in the chaos of the grind. Okay, so that stress, the resilience, or the chase, it becomes their default.
Yeah.
So to them, they're just blind to it. So we can talk about the biohacking and longevity principles and fancy words. But what I noticed is that regardless of how successful an individual is, at some point it comes to disease or disaster or divorce. There's a roadblock that forces them for them to take a look in the mirror and say, damn, I got to lose weight and get fit.
Yeah.
They're not thinking to themselves, oh, I need to optimize my sleep systems. All right, I need to biohack my health and my habits. No. It's just one thing.
Yeah.
So all of this is just part of the process. So that is what is driving them on a daily basis. And don't forget, that can also be driven by necessity, which might be financial returns to support a family. So it's not about pure neglect. They're putting others first, and that's what they see as the path that they need to prioritize and focus on.
Yeah.
Until that point.
That's it. They only have so much bandwidth. And so the priority is family and taking care of everybody else. And I'm last.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same with mums.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. So if you had 15 minutes with a burnout founder on the edge of quitting, what would you say to change their trajectory?
Is this on the verge of quitting their business or their health?
Quitting their business. I mean, just giving up and, that's it. I can't do this anymore. It's too much.
I think a big skill set around this coaching space is the power of questions. So I'd be diving in to get clarity or to help them find clarity on what particular area is making them feel like they need to give up. What isn't working, right? You've got to unpack and look at the details.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's got to be into context. I'm tired. I don't know what to do anymore. My staff keep leaving. We can't pay the bills. Okay, so which part of it is the greatest challenge? What's preventing them from getting ahead? And it is that process of just breaking it down and diving deeper into those different layers to find the root cause. So when you can help someone find clarity in what the root cause is, you're narrowing down their focus. So it's not this massive overwhelm of so many things and I just can't do it. Well, which part is the one thing that you can focus on right now? So you bring that focus into one thing, it then makes it more achievable, right? Less overwhelming. You see people actually breathe, give themselves space, and then they can actually see a path forward.
Yeah.
All right, so it's eliminate and narrow down the focus to make it easy to then find an answer of what to do next.
Yeah, it's interesting how much psychology there is behind what you do. And it's not just fitness, and it's a good thing you got that psychology degree. That helped. Very good.
It's the foundation for everything.
Yeah.
It's understanding habitual architecture and human behavior.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
It's been a pleasure.